Welcome back to the Milwaukee Show, and we are talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs and their little bit of a situation they have brewed up for themselves here. So currently, I have loved what they are doing this offseason. Bringing on Domi, Bertuzzi, and Ryan Reeves, those three scrappy fighter players that are going to make a true impact on this team, really filling out the whole kind of depth of this team up. I mean, I guess it's more for the top six, and I guess Reeves is kind of a fourth liner guy, but just padding out this team offensively and bringing in some more, just more attitude, some more just fight in this team with those pickups, as well as John Klingberg on the back end, having a puck-moving guy, put him on the power play. He's been a big defenseman before. This year was a little rough for him, but I get it. He just finally changed teams for the first time in forever. And going to Toronto, maybe this is a huge hit for him. Pair well up there. I love the moves. But the issue is all of these have led them to being $3.2 million over the cap. Well, really it's like 8.6, but because Jake Muzzin is on LTIR, it is gone up to only 3.2. So, not that bad, but they have to make a move. And with all of these pickups, one of the biggest issues, I know people were saying offense was an issue for them, but I think it was more that they needed that grit and grind that the Panthers have. I know people were saying that usually it's the defense that's the issue with the Maple Leafs, but this year it was offense. I guess it was technically offense, but I don't think it's in the way people are like they can't score goals. Why couldn't they score goals? And the issue is that the Panthers were just beating them up and outplaying them. It was really the scrappiness. So I think bringing on those scrappy players was the answer to their issue. But I think the realist issue is that they don't have a proven goaltender for the NHL. Ilya Samsonov is going to arbitration, so they're going to get him signed. And Matt Murray is still on the team. But those two goaltenders are not going to be the guys when push comes to shove. Samsonov looked good sometimes in the playoffs, but he's not truly that goaltender that's going to really push this team over the line and get them to a cup win, you know? He's just not. And Matt Murray he was, but not anymore. So, goaltending to me is still an issue, and as well as defense. I do think defensively I would say they definitely need at least one more, good defenseman. I know they're in talks with Brett Pesce, but I guess I'll get there towards the end of this video. But the biggest issue is that they have to make up that cap space, right? They have to make it up somehow. They gotta dump somebody. Just plain as simple as that. They're going to have to do that. But the biggest issue with the Maple Leafs right now is Austin Matthews and William Nylander's extension. These two guys, you might have heard of Austin Matthews. He's not really that big of a deal in the NHL. I mean, he's only scored five 40-plus goal seasons, including this first 60-goal season in so many years, and McDavid crushed it this year. But yeah, he's kind of a big deal. And William Nylander is one of their best consistent players, even into the playoffs, and is just as good as Marner and Matthews in the playoffs. So the guy is not a pushover either. And they got to get these guys signed to extensions. And this is where things might start exploding for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And this video is that doesn't really have a central point or discussion. I just kind of wanted to, I guess I does have a discussion, just discuss just what's happening here. So Austin Matthews deserves a raise. He deserves a raise from what he's done. 4 or 5 years ago is whenever he signed that contract for $11.64 and yada yada numbers, $11.6 million. That was 4 years ago, and that's what they decided he was worth. And I would say, I think they're probably right. Now, that is 13.9% of the current cap going into this year, $83.5 million. 11.6 is 13.9%. That was signed 4 years ago. At the time of that signing, the cap was even lower than what it is now, and the percentage was even higher back then. Now it's at 13.9%, and he is, in this time of signing that original contract, has become a legend. In my eyes, he's got to be the best Maple Leaf ever played, right? I guess I'm sure there's some guy back in 1954 who's probably the best Maple Leaf ever, but in my eyes, I think he's the best Maple Leaf that has ever played, ever put on that jersey. He just truly is. In my opinion, you can debate me all you want, but I'm not going to change my mind on that. Matthews, I don't know if that's a controversial thing to say, but best Maple Leaf. So he's become a Maple Leaf legend in that time. well, I guess technically 5, but 4 in the 40s goal seasons and 1 getting to 60 goals. That was last year where he won the Ted Lindsay and the Hart and the Rocket Richard. I know he's won at least one Rocket. He might have won more than one, but I know he's won it at least once. And he's gotten all these achievements, these individual awards, has getting to a 100-point season in the 80s this year. This guy is a true star currently in today's day and age. And the Maple Leafs need to win him over. The Maple Leafs need him. He doesn't need the Maple Leafs. And for me, if I was him, this would be the year. This would be the Judgment Day year. This is Terminator 2. This is Judgment Season. And this is the time where I think Matthews goes, listen, I have won my individual trophies that I'm going to win. I've won the Rocket. I'm sure I'll win it again in my career. I've won the Hart and Ted Lindsay. I would bet he could win that again in his career, especially, I mean, there's so many years left to his reign. I'm sure he could definitely win those at least one more time. I've won those. I'm going to do it again eventually. But what I need now in insurance, I'm 25 years old, is that I don't become one of those guys like Erik Karlsson if I sign a 5-year longer deal here and I'm 31 years old and I still haven't won a Stanley Cup. And like Erik Karlsson said about in an interview a little bit ago, is I've played with so many guys that have been the greatest of all time and have never gotten the cup, and he doesn't want to be that guy. Austin Matthews, does he want to waste, I don't want to say waste, but does he want to go another 5-6 years till he's in his 30s and be that kind of guy that's like, I haven't won it yet, and turn into Patrick Kane where eventually he just gets flipped to another team to try to win it and then he gets bounced out of the first round now? Or does he walk away and sign with a team that he believes gives him an opportunity to win the Stanley Cup? And that would be my opinion. And for his raise, right? Because he's going to want to raise. And for the Maple Leafs, the cap isn't really that big of an issue. I don't think money is going to be an issue for them to sign him, especially with the cap going up. But here's the thing. With the payment now, the cap is expected in only 2 seasons in 25-26. It is expected to be around $92 million, okay? That's expected. 13.9%, which is the same amount that is being, the same percentage is being paid now, in that time would be $12.8 million. Now, I believe he deserves a raise from that as well. I think he's worth more than just the 12.8, especially with the cap going up. I think he deserves at least, like, in that time in the year, I would say he's probably worth, if he signs like a 5-year deal, that's only 2 years. If he signs a 5-year deal, and in the year 2020, like, what would that, like 2028, if he's being paid 13.9% of the cap, what if it's gotten up to $100 million by then, right? What if that's the salary cap? He should be being paid like, what, $13.5 million or something around there. But I don't think that's the issue, though. The issue is keeping him on this team, right, and getting him to re-sign. But there are a lot of dominoes that might start falling here very soon. We've got William Nylander, who apparently wants $10 million for his next deal. For me, that is a slight overpayment on paper, but that's because in our minds, $10 million right now is a guy like John Tavares, is a guy like Mitch Marner, where these guys are kind of 100-point players, and we think of those guys first. But William Nylander's right there, 80-point seasons. Over the last 5 years in the playoffs, he is just as he's only like 4 points behind over like in the playoff runs. I think Matthews leads over the last 5 years. I should have wrote this down, but I think Matthews has like 44 points. Marner had like 40 points or something like that, and Nylander had like 39 or 37 or something like that. He was right up there with them in those points. So on paper, looking at his stats on paper, he is doing just barely little amount to Marner and Matthews, which $10 million, if you just kind of think about it, just like, I don't, not metaphorically, but substantially, it's like if Matthews is $12 million, Marner's $11 million because he's like the step down from Matthews, and then you've got Nylander at 10. It makes sense, but it seems like an overpayment now because $10 million right now feels like a guy like Kaprizov, where people are comparing his numbers to his. But the issue and the difference is Kaprizov can run a team on his own, right? When he's on the ice, he is the superstar. He's running the play. Nylander is an amazing player, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he can be the centerpiece of a team that makes the playoffs, and that's kind of the issue there. But as the cap raises to that $92 million, I think that $10 million is going to be fair by then. $10 million right now seems like a lot, but in that forecast, and Nylander wanting to probably sign a long-term deal to get that big money because he's earned it by now. What if in this short amount of contract, if he signs like 2 years and he plays kind of poor, maybe he has a couple injuries, his price point goes down and he's wasted that time, right? Same thing goes for Matthews. If he signs, I've seen people like saying like Matthews should take a smaller contract for the team, and it's like, okay, sure, let's say he signs like a 2-year deal, but he gets injured. What if he gets a concussion? Let's say he breaks his foot. I don't care, whatever, pick your injury, and he gets out for like a whole season, and then his next season has a tough time coming back like Erik Karlsson, and then he signs for only like $9 million, and then the next season he gets 130 points. Just saying, whatever, it doesn't matter what the actual number is. And it's like, wow, he's got a great contract. And it's like, yeah, the guy's a star. So with Nylander, do they make this deal happen? Do they come to terms with each other and say, sure, 10 million's what you want, 10 million's what you get? Nylander, I don't think he should budge on his number. I think what he wants is what he's worth, and I think it's up to the Maple Leafs if they make that agreement and they come together and sign. If they don't, what happens? Does he get moved out? And if he gets moved out, for what? What do you bring back for William Nylander? Because you move out that right winger, then you've got a whole hole on missing from your team. Because now, if you look at them right now, you've got probably Bertuzzi, Matthews, and Marner, and then the second line you got Nylander, Tavares, and Domi, or somewhere along those lines, right? And if you remove Nylander, there goes your top 6. Now it's only down to a top, really, I mean, Matthews and Marner, the 2 best players, and then Nylander. So then you've lost your 3rd best player on the team. So then you've lost him, and what do you bring back for him? I have no idea what you would trade for William Nylander. And then, right now, they currently still need a goaltender, so what if they move out, like, Nylander for a guy like Connor Hellebuck, right? His 1 year left, perfect to have that short-term contract to make sure you have all the cap space in the world to re-sign a guy like Matthews. And you bring on Connor Hellebuck for Nylander, but that seems like a pretty great deal for the Winnipeg Jets. So do you make that deal? Would the Jets have to give up more for him? I don't know. And it all seems very hard to put together. Now, for me, one way they can remove the salary, that space that they need, I would say remove a guy like TJ Brody. To me, in the playoffs, the guy looked absolutely horrendous. One of the worst defensemen I've seen in the entire playoffs this year. I know he's not always the worst, but he looked horrendous in the playoffs. And $5 million, you can move him out along with another contract, easily make up the cap space if you bring on another player, or just Brody out to make up that $3.2 million. So, really, it all comes down is that this is the year where you're trying to convince Austin Matthews to re-sign with you, right? This is the judgment season, and you want to make the best team. But do they trade away a guy like Nylander, and that makes the team worse, most likely? And then, after that, they still need a goaltender. So if they remove Nylander for Connor Hellebuck, I don't even know if that's going to be that great of a return and really equally things out and make things better for the team. So this is the judgment year. So you're trying to convince Matthews. You get a good goaltender, but you lose your 3rd best player. You now have a goalie in net who hasn't really shown to be a true playoff goalie in Connor Hellebuck, but he is a good goalie in the regular season. Playoffs is a different story. You go to the playoffs, and then you lose in the first round again, and then Matthews decides, screw this, I'm going to Los Angeles. I'm moving back to America. He seems like a guy, an LA guy, and hell, 4th of July just happened. I'll say it. I'm proud that he probably wants to come back here. He's swarmed by fans every single season, just absolutely wanting to burn his jerseys and berate him. And well, I don't really know if anyone's berated him in public or anything, but I know people online burn his jerseys, throw it on the ice, stuff like that, boo him in the most hockey-centralized city in the world, and he's the focal point. And then he's like, screw this, I'm going to LA. And I'm moving there. No one's going to bother me. I'm going to go to Los Angeles. It's the nice heat. I fit the atmosphere. I like the culture. I'm moving to LA. I'm gone. I'm winning with this team that's got a lot of young guys. Bye-bye. And he walks to LA next season. And then what happens? Mitch Marner's contract ends next season, and he goes, well, great. Now my buddy's gone, Nylander's gone. This team sucks. I've wasted every year of my career. I'm walking. And the dominoes start falling, and then you're left with old Johnny Tavares, whose contract will be one of the worst ones by that time, as he's going to start falling off real soon. The Maple Leafs falling apart, or do they keep things together? To me, I think it's more likely that things are going to fall apart here. Because if I was these players and you only live this one life and you only have this one career that you get to play for so many years in your prime, Matthews is in his prime, Nylander's in his prime, they deserve what they want. They deserve a chance to win. And the Maple Leafs, are they giving him a chance? I think with their moves, they are, but with only such one season to Brad Treliving to prove to them to keep him, I don't know what happens. But I know this video is kind of just all over the place and not really like any true like topic, just kind of more of a discussion. It's just this was on my mind and I wanted to talk about it, so I did that. So that's all I gotta say. So thank you for watching this. If you've made it this far, please, I'm begging you, please pick up your free subscription. Until next time, too sweet, have an amazing day, and ta-ta for now. And I want to say, I don't think the Maple Leafs suck. I like the Maple Leafs. I like the moves that they've made. I'm cheering for them to finally go far and make a true playoff run. I thought this would have been the year that they could have, but then they just screwed it all up again. I would like to see them have a true opportunity to succeed, but they just scramble it every time they get. But anyways, bye-bye.